Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're doing really well today and the lockdown is still okay for you. I'm Guillaume Carrier, Proper Head of Content and Innovation. We've launched the Daily Talks some weeks ago, new format of new webinars, which give the mic to the tech and innovation experts into the real estate and built environment. Just a reminder about the formats. Every day, 4 p.m. Paris time. We receive several speakers to present a topic for 20 minutes, and then it's 10 minutes Q&A when you have the power, when you get the control. So in order to do it, bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A button. Feel free to ask any question during the presentation. We'll take them right after. So today, I'm really happy to receive Titus Albrecht, the co-founder and CEO of Realxdata, and Harré, the investment manager at Signa. Hi guys, how are you?
We're doing good, thank you.
Yeah, really good, thank you. I hope you can also join by the cam.
Yeah.
Perfect. Really good. Okay, so today I know you're going to talk about the relationship between the VCs and the founders during a global economic crisis like we are now. So please, can you at least give me some words to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, I'll give you the typical one-sentence pitch for Realxdata, and then a little bit on the background why I founded Realxdata, because I think this always gives a very good context. So Realxdata is a data analytic and market data platform for the real estate industry. But actually, what does that mean? My background is actually pure real estate. And 3 years ago, I founded with 3 different backgrounds, Realxdata. And my idea was always when I did I'm still there, sorry. So my question was, when I did real estate business and transactions, always that I was a lot of crunching all the time, right? It was data crunching and a lot of research. And that was actually beginning 2000, 2002. And it never changed during my whole time in the real estate industry. And I saw a lot of different industry changing. And it took me some time to realize, but at some certain point, I found the idea with an old colleague together to actually found Realxdata together with him to help the real estate industry not to crunch Excel anymore all the time and to do research on market data all day long, and then only have less time to really evaluate real estate and your assets and your tenants, to really change that amount from being able to analyze fast real estate data, have market data at the same time at your hand, and then being really time and having time to take care about real estate. And that's actually also within the name. So it's Realxdata. It means real estate meets actually data. And that's the idea behind Realxdata.
Okay, thank you, Titus. I'll introduce myself in a few words. So first of all, thank you all for participating, and a warm welcome from myself as well. My name is Mark. I'm investment manager at Signa Innovations. I'm responsible for the venture capital business at the Signa Group. I assume most of you know. So we're at Signa Innovations. We're kind of like a VC within the group, structured as a VC within a separate investment vehicle. And we're doing typical extended seed, Series A, early stage investments in digital startups all around the vertical of the real estate industry, okay? So we're doing this since 18 months now, so we're quite young, a startup ourselves. And we, as by now, have 11 investments, predominantly in the DACH region, 1 in the Netherlands, and we're looking at a lot of different companies that are trying to disrupt certain value or certain aspects of the value chain in real estate. And this is why we invested in Realxdata, because we think that Realxdata has the potential to disrupt one of the most essential processes in the real estate industry, the transaction process, and can give a lot of additional value towards its customers. So that's pretty much what we're doing right now.
Great, thank you, Mark. I want to ask you. I won't start by asking you if you're still investing, but can you Yes, at least. And now,
You promised not to
explain-
ask that question.
That's right. No, but at least can you explain us how the current situation is affecting your work?
Yeah, look, I mean, like, I'm in home office, I think it's the 8th week now. So business is slowing down since 2 months, a little more, okay? And as in PropTech space, you see the majority of the startups being in B2B businesses. So that means digital first sales is not what you do typically. The sales process is still analog, you meet face to face, stuff like that. So the first thing that happened and that we saw is that sales cycles that are typically in the B2B space are quite long already, became even longer because you can't meet in person. Okay, so this is one effect that we see when we look at our companies, but we also see in terms of how our investors behaving right now is that there is a high uncertainty in the market, and there are some funds that are looking for cheap deals. So, and they're really, really kind of like picky right now, still investing, but picky. They're looking for down rounds, companies they missed out in the past and maybe get a chance to invest now, or other like really aggressive opportunities. But most of the VCs we see, they're not investing right now because every VC is occupied preserving their portfolio right now. And we expect, and that applies to all VCs in the market, we expect now that we have to use more capital than we actually planned in our allocation plan to allocate towards our portfolio companies, because the VC market in terms of deals and traction is pretty much frozen right now. Again, if you guys see actually deals happening, I see some of colleagues from other funds that posting photos sitting at a notary and say, now we're still doing deals. That these, most of them, 99% of these deals are deals that were negotiated before the crisis happened. And if you know the process, then you know that you're sitting at the notary 3 months, 4 months after you start negotiations. So nobody's doing deals right now. That puts a lot of pressure on follow-on funding and a lot of pressure on the VCs preserving their portfolios and looking and taking care of the portfolios in a way that allows them to run till Q2 at least of 2021. That is the biggest challenge. How can we ensure that our portfolios have a runway till at least the mid of 2021, better the end of 2021, at least. So this is what we're doing, and it has a lot of aspects. And then we're very fortunate when it comes to ourselves, because we're kind of like, as I said, not so long in the market. Most of our companies recently did the financing round, as Titus, for example, and that takes a lot of pressure away in the current situation, because you have a solid capital, solid liquidity base, and now you have a lot of opportunities, right? I mean, like, maybe Titus, you can elaborate on that a little bit further, but we think the number of opportunities now is the most crucial factor. The more opportunities you have, the better you can react.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I think what you just said, I can totally agree. I mean, the pressure on the PropTech still, and now Mark is not listening, but it's pretty huge by investors still, right? And I think COVID has an impact on that, and this is why I think a very close relationship by now is very important, because somehow we see 3 different impacts on COVID. So I would call it on the team. Yeah, how you work, how we work. And I think everybody who's listening now and the PropTech and the VC scene doesn't really have a huge issue with that. Also for Mark, it's pretty easy to work from home. For his colleagues from the real estate industry, being in different buildings, probably a little bit harder. So we're not struggling on that. And the atmosphere and how we're communicating with the team, we have an office in Barcelona, so we know how to work remote. This is pretty easy. The second one is, of course, talking to the investors, and at some point, and we're happy to now have a lead investor, that we take him also, that he's the one who's communicating with the other investors. And the other one where we really need support on is actually, and this is why we also had the idea on this webinar to tell you guys the impact on customers, right? On the business we're doing. Yeah. There are impacts, definitely. I see on digital solutions more advantages, chances than risks. but these have to be in a very like specific moment to be elaborated also with your investor, because of course it's hard, and every startup I think has a very bullish business plan, and which is of course also needed as its venture capital. But of course COVID has impact, and now you need to see, because also the requests from the market are a little bit maybe now different than before, how to react on this. And this is very good to have then an investor actually talking to him, because he has the experience, first of all, a focus we see like Signa to the real estate companies, but he also has a portfolio of his different companies. Even if they have different services, he has a lot of experience actually what these companies, how they are doing, how they are facing the issue. And this is helping us, I think, in the relationship at the moment a lot.
I mean, like, look, and I can't agree more. And you mentioned a very important aspect, I think. You mentioned that, yeah, Mark, you have pressure, that is fine, but we have more. And that is true. Okay, because as a CEO or as a founder, you have much more stakeholders you need to satisfy. Okay, and the typical reaction from an investor in times like now is like go nuts and say, ah, the world is going down, and you have to fire all your staff, and you have to cut costs by at least 50%, and you have to do this and you have to do that. And I think that is pretty much the wrong way of doing it, because first of all, you're kind of like the fixed star for your founders if you're a good investor, because as Titus mentioned, they're struggling with way more and tasks than an investor. Our business is very kind of like binary, right? So we invested, we're not invested. It's not that has not so many sides. So we, as an investor, the most important thing is don't panic, right? Listen carefully, listen very carefully to the founders, elaborate on what they're saying, and then try to challenge them. Okay, so what are your customers saying, right? Because the typical reaction is we're going through a recession, sales is going down, my investment plan is not going to work, I'm losing money, panic again, okay? But listen to what the founders are saying. Then elaborate the market, talk to potential customers, talk to actual customers of your investments, of your companies. Ask them, what's your pain point? How can I help? So this is pretty much what we did. And we figured out that every solution right now in the market that can solve one of the most important issues right now, which is for asset managers or real estate companies, is liquidity for sure. It's also data. Like now you need all the data, because if you're a real estate company, the banks are calling, you have to ask for waivers, transactions are kind of like slowing down, you need more data, you need it now, and you have to calculate scenarios. Everything that helps with that is very important. Another thing is everything that helps boarding people back onto the office is going to become more important, because you have to take care of the distance in the offices, you have to take care of who is in the office and stuff like that. So listen and then find solutions that adapt the product. And I mean, there are stories, Titus, from your customers, where customers calling you, how much hotels can you tell me as by now? How much offices can you tell me as by now? And this is where it's going to become very interesting. Because if you understand that as an investor as well, then you can say, okay, maybe we should kind of like put out another value proposition in the product and go aggressively in the market and use the current situation to push our product even further towards our clients, with, of course, always a certain sensibility or sensitivity on the situation the customers are right now. But right now it's all about empathy and understanding and trying to be helpful. And that applies for investors, that applies towards their customers, which are the founders predominantly, and that applies for the founders as well to their customers. And this is something you really have to understand. Don't panic and try to be helpful. Try to understand the situation. Every company is different, right?
Yeah, but also maybe also from a real estate, because maybe some of the participants are not having a pure founding background. What we also see, and this is also the interesting for you then working with, of course, on that part with Signa Innovations, is how is actually the demand now on the real estate industry changing? And this is what makes the industry very interested about products like this. What is actually my competitor doing? Are they now going more bullish and more what Mark exactly just said? after market data, for example. And this brings us also in a situation where you then need to discuss with your stakeholder. By the way, tomorrow we have a board meeting, the direction or the focus, and focuses are, especially in young companies, and even if we are 3 years old, changing the focus sometimes, right? And this is helping, I think, always in a discussion.
Yeah, I mean, like adding knowledge, adding and help iterate the product in times like this, and putting pressure away from the founder, that I think is very important. Okay, so what we're trying to do all the time is kind of like, in certain cases with Titus, we try to help him and his team understand the situation of the industry better. And but we also need some insights from Realxdata as well, because everyone's looking at the situation in the real estate market and asking the same questions. What are the impact on the valuations? What is the impact on the rents? How is the number of transactions going to be in the market in the next weeks, months, maybe in the next year? And this is something where we benefit from each other, right? So this is, try to find synergies.
Koyam, now it's your turn. We didn't give you any space.
No, but I'd like to come back to your current situation, your relationship. I mean, you've talked a lot together, and we can see that there is a good relationship. When I prepared with you this session, I could see how much you know each other. Does this situation give you more time, Mark, to work with Titus and Realxdata, or can you manage this time in a different way?
I have to take more time, okay, because there are more issues popping up. And in fact, like, deal flow is going down for investors. So presumably one part of our business is kind of like frozen, which it is not, because you still get deal flow and you still see deals, but now your portfolio and the founders are expecting you to spend more time with them, which is their right and which every investor should do. So what we're doing by now is, nearly with some of my founders, we're having daily talks, at least weekly. I talk to every founder for at least an hour or two, always with the same perception. How can I help? And what's going on in your mind right now? And that is so important as well, because like, look, Titus has to manage a team of over 35 people right now. And there are a lot of issues coming up. There is a lot of uncertainty. And he has no one that guides him anymore, because he's in his company, he's the boss, right? So he needs to give guidance. And therefore, as an investor, you have to be some kind of, like, as I said again, fixed star to help Titus iterate his decisions and discuss it. And that by now becomes more important than ever.
Also regarding, also regarding HR, I mean, that's the only, I wouldn't call it positive thing, because I don't like the word, because I think there's less or nothing actually positive at the moment. We're staying in a positive mood, but the hiring is actually working better for tech companies at the moment. Yeah. And this is, of course, like something I'm discussing a lot with Mark. It somehow reduces run rate, but there are like opportunities actually, and we're still hiring. And actually every hire I need now to discuss also with Mark, like the pro and contra. And this is like also the acceptance by investors, of course, to accept that like a company is further hiring if you're even not matching or would match the business plan. So this is also like the uncertainty at the moment we are having, like a hot issue Mark and me are discussing a lot.
Yeah, exactly. But it's important not to say we have a freeze on hiring just because everyone does a freeze on hiring. If there is an opportunity ahead, then you're very, very stupid if you're not looking into it and then decide on what can the impact be. Does it have a direct impact, a positive impact on the product, on our potential revenues? And potential doesn't mean 2 years, but potential doesn't mean 2 months right now. Okay, so what resources do we need and how can we allocate them? This is what I said before when I meant every company is different and has a different product and a different team and different opportunities now ahead. And that is something we have to be very flexible in mind as well. And again, try to be like really helpful.
Great. Before taking the questions from the crowd, will you maybe finish by giving me your point of view about what should happen after? What would be the situation post COVID?
Titus, you want to start?
Okay.
You're the market data expert, right?
Yeah, I mean, getting our expertise in here from really a market data perspective, I think what's obvious and where we do not have to talk, and which industries hit very heavily, or which kind of uses, of course, hotel, gastronomy, and retail, high street retail. This is something which we can not now really analyze in data at the moment, because there is just no data seen. But on residential, we do not actually really see on the markets an impact. It changes a little bit on the office market. So what's happening at the moment, look at Mark, look at myself. I'm by myself in the office, you guys are as well. So the office situation, we will see how much really will stay on that home office, how long it will last, because the longer it lasts, the less spaces you actually need. And then we have a demand and supply issue. So office, I'm a little bit skeptical, and we see first shifts within the data frame, and residential not. So that's maybe a quick update on data.
Yeah, I think the impact on the office space will be huge, because what we're learning right now is that for a lot of tasks we don't need offices. Offices, like, we just had a discussion with my team today, and we're saying, because we're discussing whether we want to go back to the office or not, and then you have to split up teams and stuff like that, okay, to prevent quarantines if somebody gets sick and stuff like that. And that would be actually worse than for all of us just staying at home, okay? Because splitting up the team, half is working in the office, half, that is stress that nobody needs. I think offices are becoming a space more of a kind of like where you hang out with colleagues, a socializing environment that is very necessary for a team to grow. Yeah. But in terms of like, how do we work and do we need the office to get our work done? I think we're going to learn that it's not necessary for everyone. I mean, I'm not talking about the guys having kids at home and have to manage a family situation, but just in pure terms of, is remote work something that's feasible and that's working on a large scale? I say we learned over the last 8 weeks that it is, and that will have an impact.
Okay. Okay. We do not have some question right now. Can maybe ask you if you can give me some words about the situation in Germany. I mean, okay, can you? It seems that you can work. You can go to work.
Yeah.
Looks like
I mean, what Mark said. Yeah, what Mark said is we made up a plan, because we are working in a co-working space, and we have now made up a reduced plan, because we cannot sit here with a full staff of over 30 people. It's about 50 maximum, and that's why we have a weekly plan now by colleagues being able to come to the office. But this is all on volunteer basis. We also gave free vouchers on these bikes you can rent. Because the people are really somehow a little bit afraid on also using the public transportation. So this is how we are reacting.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, please, Mark, sorry.
Yeah, I think not only in terms of like the work environment, but now, like I think an hour ago or something, there was some news that now we will have a less stricter lockdown. So I think from a couple of days on, you can start meeting close friends and family, maybe, stuff like that. But if you're talking about the work environment, we'll expect impacts that will last for at least 6 to 12 months regarding the team split up situations and stuff like that. So I think the way back to normal will take us a while. I mean,
and we have the Q&A, right?
Yeah, the questions come out. Okay, so I have the questions about the 6 months coming. But firstly, for you, Mark, there is a question about knowing if you are implementing internally the 11 tech solutions you are invested into.
Yeah, good question. So we're not a strategic investor. So that doesn't mean that we have to implement, right? We're pure financial driven investor. So we look at the cases as every other VC, only with a more vertical specific angle. But we would be stupid, very stupid, if we're not implementing where it makes totally sense from a business perspective. So what we always do is ask our colleagues and the relevant departments, what do you think about the product? What do you think about the solution offered? And if they want, of course, we'll make a very warm introduction. And we have actually implemented a couple of products that we invested, but not necessarily. But we're trying to do where it makes sense, but we're also trying to implement new and digital products and solutions that from an investment perspective we're not interested in. So we have a colleague in our team who is responsible for all these things, like looking at our value chains and how new products can improve these value chains and workflows. And we're working closely with him. So yes, we do, but not necessarily. But this we can say, we have implemented Realx.
Oh, yeah. So a question maybe more for you, Realx, from Charles, would like to ask if there is any difference between the different markets, different countries to face this crisis.
Yeah, I think you're very strict on the time, right? So we have 1 minute each for the questions. So I'll be quick on that. At the moment, we're looking into data in Germany, starting Switzerland and Austria a little bit. And we have partner companies we're talking to about data in different countries, France, for example. At the moment, somehow it's funny, all the markets were very bullish, but at the same time, we're seeing a same shift or a same change of demand in somehow every market about the same. And this will also, I think, to answer the last question, to adapt during due diligence, change and be a chance again for technology companies on the market data part, because I think within a due diligence, again, it will be not only of getting really the bid, or I mean, most of the transactions are in bidding processes, and sometimes it's about the fastest. This will, I think, change to a solid market data analysis. And also, if you want to sell the property, you need to provide the market and the potential buyer with solid market data. And I think this is going to change really in the due diligence within the next years.
Maybe you want to add something about due diligence, Mark.
Yeah, I can, I mean, what I said is the way we have to adapt the due diligence and acquisition post-COVID. Not clear whether it means, I assume it means acquisitions in terms of venture deals, right?
Yeah,
so,
same.
Yeah, I think, and I can tell for ourselves, but also for a lot of other investors that I'm talking to on a constant basis, when we talk about recession resilience in certain points, it's becoming more important. I think looking at the long-term value of a business model and whether you can persist in such uncertain times. This is something investors will take a closer look at, because we had valuations were going up and up and up and up and up, and nobody was really looking. It was just bidding on a good idea. Okay, there was till February, and now it's going to be very different. As I said in the beginning, investors are becoming more picky. Yeah.
Of course. Thank you very much to both of you. It was a pleasure to have you here. And yeah, we'll thank everyone for following the talks today, and hope to see you tomorrow for the French, that's the French one tomorrow, the last session of the week.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you for having me. And if anybody has some follow-up questions, I think you'll kind of connect everyone if there are any questions or.
Perfect. Same for me. Right. Thank you very much for organizing.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.